First Contact Protocol Captain Marcus Reed stood at the observation deck of Aurora 7, watching the stars shimmer through the station's reinforced viewport. The research station orbited the neutral zone between human space and the unexplored sectors, serving as humanity's furthest outpost into the unknown. Marcus had been stationed here for 2 years, but today felt different. Today, they were expecting their first official alien delegation. The CUM system crackled to life, interrupting his thoughts. Captain Reed, to Docking Bay 7. Our guests have arrived. Marcus straightened his uniform and made his way through the station's corridors. The crew members he passed seemed tense, their eyes reflecting a mixture of excitement and apprehension. First contact with a new species was always unpredictable, despite all the protocols and training. Humanity had encountered 17 different alien races in the past century, and each meeting had taught them something new about the galaxy's diversity. As he approached Docking Bay 7, Marcus could see the alien vessel through the viewing portal. It was unlike anything he had seen before. The ship's hull seemed to shimmer with an organic quality, as if it were alive. Curved lines flowed across its surface in patterns that reminded him of flowing water or wind-blown grass. There were no harsh angles or mechanical joints visible, just smooth transitions and natural forms. The docking bay doors cycled open with a soft hiss, and Marcus found himself face to face with something that made his breath catch. The alien standing before him was humanoid in basic structure, but with features that were distinctly non-human. She stood about 5.5 feet tall, with pale silver skin that seemed to have a subtle luminescence. Her hair was a rich auburn color, but what immediately caught his attention were the fox-like ears that twitched atop her head, covered in soft-looking fur that matched her hair. But it was her eyes that truly captured him. They were large and expressive, a deep amber color that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. When she looked at him, Marcus felt as though she could see straight through to his soul. Her face was delicate but strong, with high cheekbones and a small, slightly upturned nose. She wore a flowing garment that seemed to be made of the same material as her ship, shifting and changing color subtly as she moved. Behind her came 2 more members of her species, but Marcus found his attention completely focused on the female, who stepped forward first. As she approached, he noticed she had a long, fluffy tail that swished behind her, also covered in the same auburn fur as her ears. "Greetings, Captain Reed," she said, and her voice was like music with a slight accent that made every word sound exotic. "I am Lyra of the Vexed Eye. We have come in response to your invitation for diplomatic relations." Marcus bowed slightly, following standard first contact protocol. "Welcome aboard Aurora 7, Lyra of the Vexed Eye. I am Captain Marcus Reed, representing the United Earth Alliance. We are honored by your presence." As he straightened from his bow, something unexpected happened. Lyra stepped closer, and her tail, which had been swishing gently behind her, suddenly moved forward and wrapped around his leg just above the ankle. The sensation was warm and soft, but also firm, as if her tail had its own grip strength. Marcus froze, unsure of how to react. Was this a greeting custom? An accident? A sign of aggression? His training kicked in, reminding him not to make any sudden movements that could be interpreted as hostile. Instead, he looked into Lyra's amber eyes, searching for some clue about her intentions. "Forgive me," Lyra said, but she made no move to remove her tail. "Your species' emotional emanations are quite strong. I needed to establish a connection to better understand your intentions." The other Vexed Eye behind her exchanged glances. and Marcus noticed their ears twitching in what might have been amusement or concern. He realized that whatever was happening was not entirely normal, even for their species. "A connection?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite the unusual situation. "Yes," Lyra replied, her tail tightening slightly around his leg. "My people are empathic. We read emotions and intentions through physical contact. Your species broadcasts feelings very strongly, but in a chaotic pattern that is difficult to interpret without direct contact." Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation where her tail touched his leg, as if a mild electrical current was passing between them. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was definitely unusual. He could sense that the other crew members in the docking bay were watching the interaction with intense interest. "I see," Marcus said carefully. "And what do you sense from this connection?" Lyra tilted her head slightly, her ears twitching as she considered his question. "Curiosity, caution, a strong desire to protect your people, but also genuine interest in forming peaceful relations. You are what your species calls ... honorable." The word seemed to carry special significance when she said it, as if honor was a concept that her people particularly valued. Marcus found himself relaxing slightly, even though her tail remained firmly wrapped around his leg. "We do try to be," he replied. "Perhaps we should move this discussion to a more formal setting. I have arranged quarters for your delegation, and a conference room where we can discuss the potential for cooperation between our species." "That would be acceptable," Lyra agreed, but still made no move to release her tail. "However, I should warn you that once a Vexti establishes a connection, it is not easily broken. My tail may remain attached to you for some time as we continue our discussions." Marcus blinked in surprise. "How long exactly?" One of the other Vexti stepped forward, an older male with grey streaking his auburn hair. "Captain Reed, I am Elder Thorn. What Lyra is not explaining clearly is that she has initiated what we call a truth bond. It is typically used only in the most serious negotiations, when absolute trust must be established between parties." "And how long does this truth bond last?" Marcus asked, beginning to understand that this situation was more complex than he had initially realized. "Until both parties are completely satisfied that the other's intentions are pure," Thorn replied. "It could be hours, days, or even weeks." Marcus looked down at the furry appendage wrapped around his leg, then back at Lyra's amber eyes. She seemed almost apologetic, but also determined. He realized that this was probably not a casual decision on her part. "Very well," Marcus said, surprising himself with how quickly he accepted the situation. "I suppose we'll learn to work together. While connected, shall we proceed to the conference room?" As they began walking through the station's corridors, Marcus became acutely aware of how the connection affected his movements. Lyra matched his pace perfectly, her tail maintaining constant contact but never impeding his steps. It was as if they had been walking together for years rather than minutes. The other crew members they passed tried to hide their stares, but Marcus could see their expressions ranging from amazement to concern. He would have to address their questions later, but for now, he needed to focus on the diplomatic implications of his current situation. The conference room was set up with seats around a circular table designed to promote equality and open communication. As they entered, Marcus gestured for the Vexti delegation to sit wherever they were comfortable. Lyra chose a seat directly across from where Marcus typically sat, which meant her tail had to stretch under the table to maintain contact with his leg. "Now then," Marcus began, taking his seat and trying to ignore the strange sensation of being physically connected to an alien being. What brings the vexed eye to seek relations with humanity? Lyra's expression grew serious, her ears flattening slightly against her head. Captain Reed, we have been observing your species for several months. We have seen how you interact with other races, how you handle conflicts, and how you treat those weaker than yourselves. She paused, and Marcus could feel a slight increase in the pressure from her tail, as if she was concentrating on reading his emotional responses. We are impressed by your species' capacity for both strength and compassion, she continued. But we have also detected signs that trouble us. There are other forces moving in this sector of space, forces that do not share your values of cooperation and peace. Marcus leaned forward, his diplomat's instincts engaging fully. What kind of forces? The Krex Empire, Thorn answered grimly. They are a militant species that views all other races as either resources to be exploited or obstacles to be eliminated. Our scouts have detected a large Krex fleet moving toward this sector. How large? Marcus asked, already running calculations in his head about Aurora 7's defensive capabilities. Large enough to destroy this station and everything in it, Lyra replied, her tail tightening around his leg as she spoke. Through their connection, Marcus could sense her genuine concern and fear. Asterisk. Marcus stood abruptly, forgetting about the tail connection. Lyra rose smoothly with him, maintaining the link without missing a beat. It was then that Marcus realized their connection might be more than just diplomatic necessity. In that moment of shared concern, he had felt something from her that went beyond mere empathy. He had felt her determination to protect not just her own people, but all the innocents who might be threatened by the approaching danger. When will they arrive? He asked, his military training taking over. Our best estimates suggest 3 days, Thorn replied. Perhaps 4 if we are fortunate. Marcus looked around the table at the vexed-eye delegation, then down at the tail still wrapped around his leg. A strange thought occurred to him. Perhaps this unexpected connection was not just about establishing trust for a trade agreement or alliance. Perhaps it was preparation for something much more significant. Lyra, he said, meeting her amber eyes directly. This truth bond of yours, does it work both ways? Can you sense what I'm thinking and feeling? To some degree, yes. She admitted. Why do you ask? Marcus smiled grimly. Because I think we're going to need all the cooperation we can get if we're going to survive the next few days. And something tells me that this connection of ours might be more important than either of us realized. As if in response to his words, her tail tightened around his leg, and for a moment, Marcus could have sworn he felt an echo of determination that wasn't entirely his own. Whatever was coming, they would face it together, bound by a connection that neither of them fully understood yet. Asterisk, the tail that binds the next morning. Marcus woke to the unusual sensation of something warm and soft pressed against his ankle. For a moment, he had forgotten about his unusual house guest, but reality quickly returned as he opened his eyes to see Lyra sitting in the chair beside his bed, her tail still firmly wrapped round his leg even in sleep. Her fox ears twitched as he stirred, and her amber eyes opened slowly. She looked almost embarrassed as she realized where she was. "Forgive me, Captain," she said softly. "I did not intend to intrude on your private quarters, but the connection does not permit us to be separated by more than a few meters." Marcus sat up carefully, not wanting to disturb the tail bond. During the night, he had tried several times to gently remove her tail, but each attempt had resulted in what felt like an electrical shock that was unpleasant for both of them. "No need to apologize," he replied, running a hand through his hair. "I'm beginning to understand that this situation is as new for you as it is for me. Did you sleep at all?" Lyra's ears drooped slightly. "Vexti do not sleep the way humans do. We enter a state of rest while maintaining awareness of our surroundings. I have been monitoring the station's communications throughout the night." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Monitoring how?" "The truth bond allows me to access some of your technological systems through your body's bioelectric field," she explained, her tail shifting slightly around his leg. "I hope you do not mind, but I was concerned about the approaching Krex fleet." Instead of feeling violated by this revelation, Marcus found himself impressed by the practical applications of their connection. "What did you learn?" Lyra stood gracefully. As he rose from the bed, the movements so synchronized it seemed choreographed. "Your long-range sensors have detected the edge of their fleet. They will arrive in approximately 67 hours. Marcus moved to his personal terminal, Lyra following seamlessly beside him. As he accessed the overnight reports, he could feel a strange tingling sensation in his mind, as if someone was reading over his shoulder mentally rather than physically. "Fascinating," Lyra murmured, and Marcus realized she was experiencing the information through their connection as he read it. "Your species' tactical analysis is remarkably thorough." The reports painted a grim picture. The Krex fleet consisted of 47 warships, including 6 heavy battlecruisers. Aurora 7 had defensive capabilities, but they were designed more for protection against pirates and small raiding parties, not a full military assault. "We need to evacuate the station," Marcus said, already calculating how long it would take to get the 1,200 personnel aboard the available transport ships. "No," Lyra said firmly, her tail tightening around his leg. Through their connection, Marcus could sense her determination. "If you flee now, the Krex will pursue your ships and destroy them one by one. They view retreat as weakness to be punished." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Then what do you suggest? We can't fight a fleet of that size with our current resources." Amber eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. "Captain, what do you know about Vexti biology?" "Only what you've told me," Marcus admitted. "You're empathic, you form connections through physical contact, and you have exceptional sensory abilities." "There is more," she said, her voice taking on a reverent tone. "When multiple Vexti form connections with each other, we create what we call the network. It allows us to share not just emotions and thoughts, but knowledge, skills, and even physical capabilities." Marcus felt a spark of excitement as he began to understand the implications. "You're saying that if more of your people formed connections like ours, you could share abilities across the entire group?" "Exactly," Lyra replied. "But there has never been a successful network that included a non-Vexti participant. Species neural patterns are too different, too chaotic for most of my people to establish stable connections." "But you managed it with me," Marcus pointed out. "Yes, and I am not entirely sure why," Lyra admitted, her ears twitching with what Marcus was beginning to recognize as uncertainty. "Elder Thorn believes it may be because you have what your people call a calm, under-pressure personality. Your mind maintains focus even in stressful situations." Marcus paced the small space of his quarters, Lyra moving with him as if they had been walking together for years. "So you're suggesting that we try to create a network that includes both Vexti and humans?" "The risks are significant," Lyra warned. "A failed network connection can cause permanent mental damage to both participants." and we have never attempted to include an entire space station's worth of beings. Marcus stopped pacing and looked directly into her amber eyes. But if it worked, what could we accomplish? Lyra's tail trembled against his leg, and through their connection, Marcus could feel her excitement mixed with fear. A network of this size, combining Vextai sensory abilities with human tactical thinking and technological knowledge, could potentially coordinate defenses in ways that no single species could achieve alone. The implications were staggering. Marcus had seen what human crews could accomplish when they worked together seamlessly. If that coordination could be enhanced by alien abilities and shared across an entire station, they might actually have a chance against the Krex fleet. What would we need to do? He asked. First, we would need to determine which of your crew members are capable of forming stable connections, Lyra explained. Then, we would need to gradually expand the network, adding participants one at a time. To ensure stability, Marcus activated his CUM unit. All senior staff to Conference Room 1, Priority Alpha. As they made their way to the conference room, Marcus became aware of how the crew members they encountered reacted to his continued connection with Lyra. Some stared openly, others tried to pretend they hadn't noticed, and a few seemed genuinely concerned for his well-being. Commander Sarah Torres, Marcus's second-in-command, was already waiting in the conference room when they arrived. Her expression was carefully neutral, but Marcus could see the questions in her eyes. Commander Torres, Marcus began, I need you to understand that what you're about to hear may sound impossible, but it might be our only chance of survival. Over the next hour, Marcus and Lyra explained the situation to the assembled senior staff. The reactions ranged from skepticism to fascination, with several crew members asking detailed questions about the biological and technological implications of forming a network. Dr. Emily Watson, the station's chief medical officer, was particularly intrigued. From a neurological standpoint, what you're describing sounds similar to the theoretical neural networks we've studied in quantum consciousness research. If it's actually possible, the applications could revolutionize how we understand consciousness. Itself, Chief Engineer Rodriguez was more practical in his concerns. Even if this network thing works, we're still talking about a small research station against a military fleet. What makes you think we can mount an effective defense? It was Lyra who answered, her tail shifting round Marcus's leg as she spoke. Your species has something that the Krex do not expect or understand. You call it improvisation. You have the ability to create solutions using limited resources and unexpected approaches. Combined with Vextai sensory abilities and our predictive capabilities, this could give us significant tactical advantages. Commander Torres leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing? Marcus felt a strange sensation, as if ideas were flowing into his mind from somewhere else. Through their connection, he could sense Lyra sharing her people's knowledge of network coordination. We turn Aurora 7 into something it was never designed to be, Marcus said, surprised by the clarity of the plan forming in his mind. Instead of a research station, we make it a single, coordinated organism. Every person, every system, every defensive capability working together as one unit. Dr. Watson's eyes widened. That's actually theoretically possible. If the network could facilitate instantaneous communication and coordination across all station systems, the response time for defensive maneuvers would be reduced to nearly zero. Chief Rodriguez finished, his engineering mind already working through the implications. But first, Lyra interjected, we must determine who among your crew can safely form network connections. The process cannot be forced, and attempting to connect incompatible neural patterns could cause severe psychological trauma. Marcus made the decision that would change everything. We start with volunteers. Anyone who's willing to risk the unknown for a chance to save everyone on this station. Commander Torres stood up immediately. Count me in, Captain. Dr. Watson nodded. The medical implications alone make this worth attempting. One by one, the other senior staff members volunteered. Chief Rodriguez, Communications Officer Kim, Tactical Officer Brennan, and several others all agreed to participate in the experimental network. There is one more thing you must understand, Lyra said, her voice taking on a serious tone. Once the network is established, it cannot be easily dissolved. The connections we form over the next few days may be permanent. Marcus looked around. The table at his senior staff, these people he had served with for years, who were now willing to risk their individual consciousness for the good of everyone on the station. We understand the risks, he said. When do we start? Now, Lyra replied, and Marcus could feel through their connection that she was both terrified and exhilarated by what they were about to attempt. As the meeting broke up and the staff began, preparations for the most unusual experiment in human history, Marcus remained with Lyra in the conference room. Her tail had not loosened its grip on his leg once during the entire discussion. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. Lyra's amber eyes met his, and through their connection, he could feel her absolute certainty. Captain Marcus Reed, in the short time I have been connected to you, I have learned something important about humans. You do not simply survive threats, you transform them into opportunities. She paused, her ears twitching thoughtfully. The Krex Empire expects to find a small research station filled with frightened scientists. Instead, they will encounter something that has never existed before in the galaxy's history. "What's that?" Marcus asked. "A true partnership between species," Lyra replied, her tail giving his leg a gentle squeeze. "And I suspect they are not prepared for what humans can accomplish when they refuse to give up." As if summoned by her words, the station's alert system activated, announcing that long-range sensors had detected the Krex fleet's approach vector. The invasion would begin. In less than 60 hours, Marcus stood, Lyra rising with him in their now familiar synchronized movement. "Then we'd better get started," he said grimly. "We have a network to build and a miracle to pull off." Through their connection, Marcus could feel Lyra's fierce determination mixing with his own resolve. Whatever happened in the next few days, they would face it together, bound by a connection that might just save everyone they cared about. Asterisk.